Yes. We are the seeds of the Elohims, exposing the schemes and crushing regimes and powers that be.
I'm Prophet. I'm an MC. I'm a photographer. I do all sorts of things, but I really like to focus on things that I'm good at instead of trying to focus on things that I'm just trying to work out in my life and I'm starting over new. I ain't got time for that. So I've also done a radio show called Mental Salvation Radio, and that was probably like 7 years ago, and that was on Blog Talk Radio. So, I interviewed people, I had topics, I've lectured, I've done this and I've done that, and now it seems like things are full circle. I'm back around to doing the same thing I was doing about seven years ago. Okay. So, I'm an artist, I'm a creative, and, coming along in this whole cipher of MCs and producers and poets in the DC area, sometimes you have to stand out in a way that is not of the norm. You can't always go with the norm of whatever
the norm?
It is.
What is that?
The norm is basically, it's like more of a cookie cutter type of thing. It's like you're going with the flow. You're not trying to stand out. You're not trying to swim upstream.
Gotcha.
You're going with the water. You're going with the current. You're going with the wave. You're going with.
You're all in the zeitgeist.
Right. You know what I mean? And I don't have time for that. So I've always been influenced, by my grandma, my mom, to think outside the box, to be your own person. Growing up in the DC area, it's kind of hard to be your own person, but
it is.
It taught me, be your own person. Don't follow the leader. If you make a mistake, own up to it. If you do this, make sure it's the right thing you're doing, and always listen to the person inside you, which when I got older, it was basically the God inside us. So it was like, listen to that voice and things of that nature. So, I wanted to swim upstream. I didn't want to go with the current. I didn't want to have all the latest fashion stuff that everybody else had growing up. I really wanted to be the oddball, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way for most of us. You know what I'm saying?
You're not an oddball.
You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, you're not an oddball. Unfortunately. But the fortunate part is that there are not others like you, but there are others who are kind of, they want to not go with the flow. They don't want to, be a follower. They want to be themselves. So that kind of gives you your village a little bit,
Yeah, it does.
Your people.
Right. And that village is so rare. It
is.
It's so rare that everyone can be a chief. You don't have to be an Indian, and if you don't want to be an Indian, you are able enough to be a chief and an Indian. Oh man, that's so cool because
right. But are we politically correct in saying that, using that analogy? The chief and are we? I mean, I'm just checking. Okay. We don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah, we don't want to offend anyone. I apologize. So, I don't think, I guess the people who know me wouldn't probably take offense to who are native.
I don't. I know people. You. Right.
That's better than saying, I don't know if it's better than saying, I'd rather be,
everybody's a chief. Everybody's their own. Everybody's a chief. Everybody's their own person, their own leader, their own, they're self-governing,
I mean, that's me. That's me in the whole, in a nutshell. And I guess what I want to bring to this podcast is basically me being transparent within this podcast, because I think this podcast will allow both of us, to be transparent, so that the vibe that we send out people can relate to it. Whether you're a man or
Right.
or a woman, you can relate to what we're saying. You know, no matter if you are, have a boyfriend or girlfriend, either way, or however you want to put it, it will
Right.
be relatable to what is going on in today's society. You know?
Absolutely.
And I know we're going to talk about things that we probably always wanted to talk about. And I know we're going to bring up things like we've done in the past or things that happened in the past so we can focus on the future, because that's what it's about. You know, having our worst experiences or our good experiences, and people learn from that experience if they can within this podcast. So I think this podcast is going to be great. And I
believe that people will walk away from and take something away from it. I mean, you and I by no means are experts, in love, relationship, but we are here to offer us,
Right.
We're here to offer us and our experiences and our, thoughts and feelings. And like you said, we are both here to be transparent.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is. That's my intro. That's how I feel about a lot of, as we continue to talk and get people warmed up to us. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. And then my grandma decided, probably in like 76, 78, 79, maybe early 80s, not too sure, decided to say, hey, we getting the hell up out of here. Let's move like basically across the line. Like, let's move to Tacoma Park, but we're still like on the line of DC. So let's move to Tacoma Park, because it seems to me that your mom is not doing great at school, and this whole shit is getting on my nerves. So
wait, I thought you were gonna say that she packed you guys up and moved you down south or something. She just moved across the line.
That's all
across
you did.
The street.
Across the
you
street.
You set me up with that. You set us all up with that, Enoch.
It's like, that's what I thought. I was like, we're moving? Like, yeah. Okay, this is not far from where we were. You know what I'm saying? The only thing difference is that I can walk across the street and go to school. That's the difference. Instead of walking block, I can just walk across the street
and go to school.
And go to school, so I can kind of be late on time all the time if I really want to be.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it, Grandma.
Yeah, grandma was just like, your mama out here wilding. My mom was wilding though. She was definitely wilding. My dad is 16 years older than my mother.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad old. My dad was.
Mine is 9 years older than my mother.
Really?
Yes. 9 years.
See?
My daddy was a pervert.
See, and that's what I'm saying too, because this intro of us is basically, we're spilling our beans to you guys, because it's just like we want to be transparent, so y'all can be transparent with whomever you're with.
Absolutely.
Your dad, you say your dad was a pervert. And let's look at that. You say 9 years. Like, let's look at it. Yeah. If it's 2018 and you're dating someone 9 years younger or older.
My mother was 17.
See?
You do the math.
Yeah. And my mom was 16 when she had.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I've known you for a while, and I never knew this. See, this is information we're revealing. So I guess I should give my introduction. I am Anissa Yvonne. I was also born and raised in D.C. I was also conceived by a pervert, but I am a writer. I'm a painter, and I am the host of the Brunch Bitches podcast on RIP Radio Network. And I, too, have been on the art scene in D.C. for a number of years. I am fifth generation D.C. My mother was born here. My mother's mother was born here. My mother's mother's mother was born here. I mean, it goes on. Like, we are 5 generations in. That's it for me. I'm here. I decided to do this. I had this vision after seeing so many people on my timeline with these very sad posts about love, not just the women, but men as well. Men, spewing these things about, they're looking for loyalty and this and that. And I'm like, what does that mean? And then women talking about men opening up their hearts, but not being ready to love them. Stepping in and giving them this whole, introduction of, what love could look like. But then the women are saying that when it's time to really do the dirty work, when it's time to roll your sleeves up and really get in with these women who need healing. And I don't mean Captain Save-A-Ho type thing. I'm not talking about that. We're speaking on the two emotions, love and fear.
Right.
And, you can be a whole person and love yourself, but sometimes there are things that have been lying dormant in you that you didn't even know that you were still grappling with. But when somebody comes in with those gentle gloves and starts to love you, that love is like a tincture. It's like a medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to cough up things that can be cancerous because this person feels so safe, and they've offered you something that feels so safe that you start to cough up this stuff, and you got to work through it. But the ladies are saying that when it's time to do the work, that the guys are running.
Have you ever talked to your mom and asked your mom, how did my dad treat you? Like, how was
I've had the conversation.
Between you two?
Yes, I've had the conversation, and it wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy. Let me say this. I don't talk to my mother about love and relationship. I'm normally the one giving the advice, but I don't talk to my mother about love and relationships because I don't ever want to have any relationships the way I've witnessed my mother have relationships. So gotcha. I am more, rewiring and unlearning the experiences, that I've had to grow up with. I love my mom. My mom gives me great financial advice. My mom's the best grandmother and businesswoman. But when it comes to romantic relationships, my mother grew up in the 60s. My mother grew up in the 60s where women didn't have rights. It wasn't until 1965 that women didn't need permission from their husbands to open bank accounts.
Right.
My mother grew up as this woman who had a mind of her own, who was trying to fight to be her own person, but she was just looked at as property and an object.
Mm-hmm.
So she's worn an armor all of her life. She also has a mother, who my grandmother's 87. So she had a mother who married because that's just what you did. You married. It wasn't a loving, kind partnership.
Mm-hmm.
It was a dictatorship. And it was abusive, and it was a whole lot of things. So there's a lot of dysfunction, a lot of pathology, a lot of really dysfunctional pathology. And my daughter said to me the other day, "Mom, you are the generation that came to shake it up and to stop the mess."
Right.
And she said, so it's not being received well, with the elders in the family. I mean, I'm 41, so,
babe.
I'm a 90s teen.
Right. Got you.
So it's like me coming to, my daughter said I was the one that came to shake up the mess.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what made me want to do this, because the conversations about love, to me, when I hear them, I don't hear love in there.
Okay.
I don't hear love. I hear a lot of, people trying to either change others or people trying to possess others. Or I just hear everything.
Or trying to fit in where they don't belong. Or trying to
fit in where they don't belong.
And it's good to know these things about you as we go forward in this podcast, because we're gonna learn things about each other as we go along with this podcast, as well as giving our information to other people too, and getting other people to think outside the box. So the reason I asked you that, because I've asked my mom the same thing. My dad died. My dad